D&D character ideas, and not a joke this time. But before I get too carried away here, let me just make it clear here that first and foremost, I'm a role player. I don't mind if my numbers are high, but most of the time I build my characters around concept and personality. That out of the way, let me tell you about one of my favorite characters that I've ever played. And that's the Necromancer, Morthus Vir. Now, originally, whenever the character was started, he was made in, I think, 4th edition, and I was using some supplementary rules that allowed you to play as a race that was kind of considered undead. Hold that thought, that'll become a little important later. Now, to describe Morthus, he's sort of a cross between Gomez Adams, Cup from the Transformers, and like an anti-doctor. And how I roleplayed this was that Morthus was pretty much insane, but this manifested that he was very excitable and boisterous about death. And this is also where that whole anti-doctor thing came into play, where if Morthus would ever encounter someone that had like a slight injury, and this would be even something like a paper cut, or if someone had like a sword wound or something, or even if you showed sickness that would be even like as minor as just having a cold and sneezing. This would be something that would get his attention, and then he would go on this long, rambling, incoherent tangent trying to figure out how long it would take for you to die from whatever wound or sickness you had. Because while Morthus knew what to do with dead bodies, he wasn't the best at understanding how an actual living body worked. And then getting back to where he was undead in his original incarnation, and no pun intended, and then I had to change him to a different race later on. Remember in Transformers, whenever Cup would come across a scenario and it would always remind him of something? Like whenever they would get to a location and he would be like, oh, this reminded me of the time that we were on the run from the blah 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 aliens on, planet whatever. What I would do with Morthus is that every time we got to a new location, I would start rambling about how this scenario reminded him of another trip that he had been on with another group of people. And every one of these stories would always end violently, and the last thing would be that Morthus blacks out and he doesn't remember what happened to the rest of the people that he was with. And the way that I was playing this was Morthus was having flashbacks to other adventuring groups he was with whenever they would experience a total party kill. And what I really enjoyed about that is that none of the other players really knew whenever Morthus was going on an insane rant or whenever he was actually telling the truth.